Hi everyone, so yesterday it finally happened. I reached Paragon 300 on hardcore, and I want to talk a little bit about how that happened and what I think about it. So this here is the final run. You see me here, I'm at 299, almost there. I also have the timer going here. It took me 3 hours and 33 minutes for the final level. This was with the Mother's Blessing buff, so without that it would be almost exactly around 4 hours. If you didn't know, you need 1 billion experience for the final level, so my character can farm 250 million per hour without the temporary like seasonal buffs or something like that, just with elixir and instance buff. I used a Dance of Nice build here. This is a no snapshot Dance of Nice build. I was farming relatively low pits, but extremely fast. I was doing like 90 seconds or faster every single one, basically. So this was a really good farming build for this. And I decided, I was like almost 298, I believe, when I started this, and I had a lot of fun with the build. So I just kept blasting all night, basically, and just decided, okay, let's finish this now. And so I did. It was an absolute blast. And boom, there's the achievement. We had a lot of people present at that moment, so thank you to everyone who was there and cheering me on and like saying congratulations and this kind of stuff. You can see the chat scrolling there. Overall, I had a really good time in the season so far. I still plan to play more, so I still have some plans for some rogue builds, and I also want to make at least one barb, one necro, and one druid this time around. We'll see about Zorg, but usually I try to go through all the classes at least with one build or so in a season. So there's definitely some stuff I still want to do. A bigger problem I have right now is that I'm just running out of character slots, because this season, compared to other seasons, I've decided to mostly just make new characters for new builds. And you see here, I have actually made a lot of builds already. I've been playing like, I don't know, 12 builds, 15 builds or something like that at this point. Some of these characters I have respec here and there because you just don't have enough slots. I only have 3 mules right now, so I'm just kind of like running low on slots, but I'll figure it out. Either way though, to talk about the grind to Paragon 300, I gotta say that Blizzard has actually done a surprisingly good job with the like pacing and the overall balance of the experience grind. I had a really good time grinding the experience, even though I knew that this doesn't really help me in any way. Like, after, let's say, Paragon 250 or so, you really don't care anymore about where you put those points. It's like very minor increases. It's like the same thing as, you know, people maybe finishing the glyphs from like level 95 to 100. Like, most of the time you just don't care, really. It's like a little bit more, like a few percent more power or something like that. So it doesn't really give you anything, but on the other hand, it kind of feels nice, you know, number go up. And I think that was actually relatively well done. Just out of curiosity, I actually also compared my progress a little bit. So I just went through my past like Twitch VODs basically to see where we are, because we are exactly at 4 weeks into the season now. This is you know, on the day basically right now. Like 4 weeks ago the season started. So for example, if you go into like, you know, 1 week in, 21 days ago, and then 2 weeks ago, and then 1 week ago, the progression is actually kind of interesting. So here, this was, yeah, 21 days ago. So 3 weeks ago, 1 week into the season, I was Paragon 269. So you might remember that, you know, at the start of the season, we had this evade build that got pretty popular. I was blasting with this. I made a bunch of videos on that, and then a lot of people started playing it. This was an incredibly efficient build, so even as a solo hardcore player, apparently I was beating like all the softcore groups even and stuff like that for at least the first few days, until other people started adopting it and I started, you know, actually not grinding XP, but, you know, making all these other builds. I was like re-leveling characters a lot and all this kind of stuff, so I didn't really progress anymore at some point. But even so, I still got some Paragons here and there. So for example, now 14 days ago I was at 284, which is almost exactly halfway, which is kind of interesting because that was also half the time ago. So somehow I kept the progression like even with the time spent, kind of, because I did have some builds like this one, for example, a Crushing Hand that I really enjoyed, Rake that I really enjoyed, and so on. A lot of stuff on the Spirit one that I kept grinding with as well. And you know, you can also farm like experience very quickly, even more quickly than the rogues, to be honest, on the Spiritborn. So that was actually interesting here. So I was pretty much halfway at half time. And then 1 week ago, we were at 293. So I kind of got somewhat consistently 1 level a day at that point, which, well, if you grind the pit very efficiently, you saw like it took me roughly 3.5 hours with the buff, around 4 hours without the buff. For 1 level up, and then, you know, from like 290 to 300, it would probably be something like an average of like 3.5 hours per level, which was the experience required. So it's quite a lot, but you can definitely do multiple levels in a day. It was just that, yeah, I didn't really do anything that gave a lot of experience because, as I mentioned, many builds and so on. But if you look at the overall like time spent in the game, you can see here my stream VODs. So I have like 10.5 hours, 11 hours, 11.5 hours, 9, 9, 13, 12, and so on. So I'm pretty sure I average something like around 12 hours daily right now for the past month, because I also had my subathon going. We have reached a lot of subscriptions and a lot of people supporting me with like this supporter streamer thing, getting the mount. And I also did like some funny little stuff. There's more goals that we have reached that I still have to finish. And you're probably gonna see some more uploads here on YouTube as well. So overall, first of all, thank you for this incredible month. And I had a ton of fun blasting, I had a ton of fun doing these weird objectives for the subathon and so on. Playing on controller once, for example, was one of them. We have the Nini hardcore stream coming up very soon. So stuff like that. That was really cool. And yeah, definitely had a blast overall. Now, one thing I want to talk about is also the experience grind itself. I think that can probably still be improved by Blizzard. A lot of people always say that, oh man, you know, normal people can't reach Paragon 300. Why do they do this? Like, why is it so hard? Blah, 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 blah. Why should everyone reach Paragon 300 in the first place is my reply to that. I don't think that most people should reach Paragon 300, especially with how little it gives. And Blizzard has also kind of said something like that, as far as I'm aware. Like, you know, this is intentionally made, you know, like a really long grind, something to kind of work towards if you're blasting the game a lot, but also something that doesn't feel like a requirement to do in order to finish your character. So as I mentioned, for example, Paragon 250 is way easier to achieve than Paragon 300. You're talking about like maybe 20% of the time investment or so. I don't know the exact numbers, but something like that. And you know, you have everything you want basically at that point. So I think that this system is actually relatively well designed. At the start, I was not really expecting I would hit 300, or at least I would not really expect to really get there very soon or really think about it or try it. But it turned out that, you know, as I progressed towards 290, I was like, okay, maybe we're actually gonna finish this now. So I kind of set a goal for me to like maybe get like 1 Paragon a day at least while I'm doing all my other stuff, which I kind of kept, I guess. I was a little bit behind schedule because I was just like doing too much stuff that didn't give XP. And that brings me to the next point, which is, I think the like experience gains are too imbalanced in the game right now. So of course, when you level a fresh character 1 to 60, you don't get any Paragons. That makes a lot of sense. And of course, you know, farming Paragons in Torment 4 or like, you know, high-end content should be the most rewarding. But the way this works right now is that basically all of the experience is in the pit. And outside of the pit, there's Infernal Hordes, which is like half as good, plus minus or so. And then everything outside of that is just like worthless. And I think that's a bit of a problem. Like if you farm Hell Tides, Nightmare Dungeons, you get like no experience, like maybe a fifth or maybe a quarter or so of what you can do in the pit. And I've personally been doing a lot of, especially Nightmare Dungeons. I was farming Nightmare Dungeons for Opticide, for example, and for loot and whatever. And it just gives you no experience whatsoever. So maybe my feedback to Blizzard would be to make this a little bit more like balanced out, so they have like more different types of content that reward you. So that you don't have to just go with the pit. I think it's okay that one thing is a bit better than the other. And for example, the pit also has the opportunity to scale up in difficulty. So as you grow in power, you can actually gain more value out of it. I think that's all right. But the pit being like literally 5 times better than other stuff is not really all right. So my feedback would be to just nerf the pit XP, maybe nerf the Hordes XP as well, and just overall reduce the XP required so that it just evens out a little bit more across the board. So I don't want to like reduce the overall time investment for someone who would like grind a lot of pit, for example, but I would like to like just see it, you know, a bit more like fair basically. So that is what I would say. And also what it means for you, if you are inspired right now to actually go and log in and blast to Paragon 300 or whatever goal you have, farm the pit, farm it fast. Speed is everything in the pit. So you want to do 2 minutes or faster on like any tier you can. It doesn't have to be a very high tier. You saw me here on my rogue. In the end, I was grinding like tier 69. Very nice. And that was enough. You know, you don't really get much more XP going beyond that. Yeah, sure, you can lock on the Spirit Bond and do it a bit faster or something. But overall, I felt my pace was actually really good. And this was not on a absolutely broken, bug to shit class, basically. So that was really good. And I know a lot of people will ask about this, but I've not actually lost any of my characters during this whole grind. So I went to Paragon 300 completely deathless. Usually I would have like probably 1 or 2 rips or so at this point in a season. But I also have to mention that the game definitely has become a lot easier in Season 6 compared to before, on hardcore at least. I don't really run like a lot of extra defenses or something like that. I guess people on softcore might have noticed the same as well. I think that Blizzard has just kind of messed up the balancing a little bit with like the new life values and monster damage and the stat squish and so on. And overall, we just turned out to be tankier than expected, at least from my perspective. And I was never really feeling much in danger. This might just be like, you know, Spirit Bond is OP and Rogue is OP, and yeah, in general, just, you know, don't really worry on those classes or something like that. But at least compared to past seasons, I definitely felt less in danger, let's say. So this was like also, I'm not sure if that's good or bad. Let me know what you think about that as well. I would be kind of curious, like if you experienced the same, maybe playing on softcore even as well. But at least from my perspective, it definitely felt easier than normal. There's only one character that I kind of sunset at some point because I was doing some meme challenge, and then, you know, it was destined to die in that challenge, let's say. But outside of that, I didn't lose anything. I also like dodged all of the like game crashes, the lags, blackouts. My PC shut down some days. Like it was kind of wild, the stability issues and whatever that is happening right now. I guess many of you have experienced those as well. I kind of got out of all of these without really a big accident. So I got a bit lucky there and dodged a bullet, and kind of glad for that, because I actually had a lot of fun trying these builds, and, you know, I wouldn't have liked to lose any of them like on the way there. But yeah, what now? Well, I also have plans for a bit of softcore, because especially for future public test realms, I want to make sure that I also have a bunch of stuff there, because they don't, for example, give you paragons. Last time I had that problem. I only play hardcore, and then the test realm went up and I had nothing. So I definitely want to grind, maybe not to 300 on softcore, but, you know, somewhere up there, so I have my stuff prepared a little bit. And also just because of stash space issues, like I have all of my rogue stuff and all of my Spirit Bond stuff on hardcore, so I decided to just play, like, you know, the other classes basically on softcore a little bit. So this is probably like a thing, mostly due to the stash tabs reasons, but also for the paragons, just so I get that out of the way for basically the entire expansion. Whenever they have a, you know, new season PTR coming up, this will be quite helpful. So I'll be working on that, a few more rogue builds, a few more Spirit Bond builds. But I have done so much stuff. I've posted like all these videos. I have all the maxwell guides. So right now it's kind of like mid-season patch and waiting mode. But there's some more things I want to try at least. And then of course in December at some point or so we're gonna get Path of Exile 2. So I'm excited for that. And that's it for this video here. So hope you enjoyed my little summary and my journey. Let me know what you think about the Paragon grind, or how far are you with, you know, what kind of time investment as well would be interesting to know, just to get a bit of a, you know, idea, some numbers. But yeah, overall, I gotta say I had a blast, and I will keep blasting actually in this season. So that's what I got for now. Hope you enjoyed this, and see you guys next time.